Hello folks, I'm here today with the DS4, which quite possibly could be one of the best cars you might not have heard of. It's the premium arm of Citroen Stellantis, and it's really coming to attack the Germans head on. So this particular version of the DS4 is the 𝑘 plug-in hybrid, and it's 225, which is 225 horsepower with the 1.6 turbo petrol engine and the electric motors combined. That gives you a 0-62 time of 7.7 seconds and an all-electric range of 38 miles. Now, styling's always a really subjective thing, but I think they've done a great job with this car. It manages to look a little bit different from the competition, but not odd, not weird. It doesn't look massively quirky or anything. They've just made a really stylish looking car, and I think hats off to DS, because certainly if you compare this to something like the DS3, you wouldn't know they were from the same brand, because one's ultra quirky and this just looks a little bit classy, I think. The boot space is competitive, if perhaps a little bit unspectacular. 390 litres in this plug-in hybrid version, or 430 litres if you've got the petrol version of the car. We do still get some underfloor storage for your charging cables, and you've got a 12-volt power adapter here. And who doesn't love a poppy door handle? So let's take a look at the interior, and this is really one of the highlights of the car. This front cabin is lovely. They've leather wrapped just about everything in this particular model, and there are some really interesting materials and little design quirks. Some of it, quirk is the right word, some of it is quite quirky, but it's different. It doesn't feel so sterile as some cars. And certainly if you're thinking you're going to get into a slightly better Citroen, this feels more German than some of the German cars, if I'm being quite honest. You've got nice squidgy stuff up here, really interesting textured material here. We've then got this knurled metal. You have got some physical buttons here for things like the aircon controls and the heated screen and that kind of stuff. However, when the sun's shining in, it's really difficult to read the buttons along the top there. In the current gloomy light of an April day in the New Forest, perfectly easy to read, but when the sun does briefly come out in this country, that is a little bit of an issue. Funky looking start stop button there, and then we've got a big compartment here that stores things like your double cup holder, somewhere to put your phone, and you've got your USB connection and a 12-volt socket. We've then got this unusual little touch sensitive display down here, which is nice and crisp looking. And that's all very customizable. I mean, you can use it for things like handwriting your sat-nav destination in, but you can also program that for different functions. So you've got quick access to things that you might otherwise need to dive into the screen for. So I like the idea, but I must admit, in practice, having had this car for 6 days now, I haven't used it. And that may mean it's a little bit of a gimmick. It may just mean I'm unadventurous. You can make your own mind up on that. We've got a lovely sort of knurled metal volume dial here and a funky little gear shifter. And then just under here, you've got a little storage space with another USB. That's a USB-A. All good so far. The infotainment system is very good in this car. It's similar to what we've seen on something like the Fiat 500e. And that's a system that's not particularly full of frills, but it just works. It's nice and bright, quite nice colours on it. You've got wireless Apple CarPlay, you've got Android Auto. Everything seems to just function fairly well. It was a bit of a faff getting the phone to connect, but once I did that, no issues whatsoever. Then over here, we've got quite a nice driver information display that gives you plenty of information. It does look a little bit chaotic, but you soon get used to where everything is. Steering wheel's nice, again, leather wrapped. You've got proper buttons and dials, not a haptic in sight. And overall, the sort of little styling touches and the quality of the materials really lets you know that you're in a premium car here. You know, we're not in a bargain basement thing that's been polished up a bit. This is a premium vehicle. By and large, that premium feel extends into the rear cabin with one exception, and that's this rear centre console. That is some fairly hard, nasty plastic, and it would have been nice for that to have been leather wrapped or perhaps a squidgier material just to make it feel ultra sort of plush and premium back here. 2 USB-A sockets down there and some air vents, and the rest of the styling sort of carries forward from the front cabin. Headroom's not terrible. You'd be all right in here at about 6 foot, and knee room and foot room are generally both really good. This is the electric seat, which I think is an optional extra, and the electric seat comes back when you get out of the car. So this is not my normal driving position. When it's in my normal driving position, I've got probably that much knee room, so it's very good. The seat comfort throughout the car is fantastic, something I didn't mention in the front because I'm an idiot actually, but the driving position, the level of comfort, the way the seat grabs you is right up there. It's a lovely, comfortable thing to travel in, and that really goes the same in the back here. The middle seat is quite wide, but you have got a transmission tunnel, and this centre console protrudes a little bit, so an adult would only really want to go in it for a short journey, but otherwise this car really is ticking boxes for us at the moment. It's a really nice interior. Once you get the little DS4 onto the road, there's next to nothing really not to like about it. It's not the most sporty experience, but I don't think you're probably buying this car if you want a especially sporty drive. Now, the automatic gearbox in this car is an 𝑒AT8. That's an 8-speed proper torque converter automatic, not a sequential box or a CVT. That generally means good things for sort of longer term reliability. It also feels well powered when you're in pure petrol mode, or indeed when you're in hybrid or fully electric mode. You've got no issues with the gearbox whatsoever. The suspension's nice, you're not banging and crashing as you go along the road. It's a really nice, comfortable car to cruise in. Now, MPG is a difficult one to gauge because everybody drives differently. Obviously, if you're using this car in fully electric mode most of the time, you're not going to visit the petrol station at all, or at least very often. If you've got the car in hybrid mode, so it's using the battery and the petrol engine, you'll probably get around about 60 mpg. And I did a sort of 60-mile run in the car yesterday on petrol alone, and I got about 40, which I don't think is terrible considering we're also dragging around the battery. But obviously your driving style, whether you're driving sort of around town or out on the open road, is all going to have a massive factor on that MPG figure. So, as always, your mileage may vary. There is a bit of body roll in the corners, but the car's really nice and compliant, and the payoff really is that really comfortable ride you get from suspension like this. It just cushions you as you go down the road. There are no hard crashes or bangs, but of course you're not going to get that super sporty drive from it. But if you want a super sporty car, you're probably not buying a plug-in hybrid DS4. It's by no means a dull car to drive though. I mean, it gets away from the line in just over 7.5 seconds, which is not too bad. And it does keep you engaged. The steering's got a nice feel to it. It does feel like you've got some idea where the front wheels are, which you can't say about every modern car. It's difficult when you think about the rivals to this car because there aren't too many, because it's not a pure hatchback, but it's certainly not an SUV, and it's only just a crossover really. It's a hatchback that sits slightly higher. You've got a slightly higher driving position, which is nice to be fair. I guess its most direct rival would be something like a Cupra 4 Mentor, but don't get me wrong, you have to put this car in the same class as the Audi A3, the Mercedes A-Class, the BMW 1 Series, because that's what it's putting itself up against. And in terms of the overall quality, I think it does a reasonably decent job of it. The biggest problem it's got is that it is much more expensive than some of those rivals. I mean, if you look at the plug-in hybrid version of the A-Class, for example, it's several £1,000s cheaper than this if you look at list prices. However, this is a great car to lease. And indeed, if you wanted to buy one, you can use one of the car buying services, CarWow, WhatCar, you name it. And you will find good discounts on new cars. But certainly over the last 12 months, there have been some fantastic lease deals on this car. And I know several viewers have gone out and leased one and have sent me messages saying how happy they are with it. So don't let that RRP figure put you off. You know, the one we're sat in at the moment is about 46 grand, give or take. But in the real world, I just don't think you're going to pay that. And certainly if you hold out for a good lease deal on one, I'm sure it will appear. It's a very good car though, and I think it's one that you should certainly consider. As always, that link to Lease Loco is in the video description and pinned as the top comment. And I suggest just giving it a click and seeing what the deals are like today. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this DS4. Let me know in the comments if you'd go for one of these over perhaps one of its possibly more premium German rivals, possibly not more premium, by the way. Don't let the badge fool you. Let me know in the comments. Please give this video a thumbs up as well. It's massively important, so please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, take yourself outside, flog yourself perhaps with some birch, and then come back inside and press that subscribe button. If you are already a subscriber, click on the notification bell, and don't forget my link to 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙄𝙇𝙄𝙼𝙀 is in the video description and pinned as the top comment. Thanks, see you on the next one.